Okay, this is one of the other little Strathmore journals, 400 series. My favorite paper, my favorite size for just sketching, doing colored pencils, and sometimes I will add paints, but mostly it's just sketching. And I did a portrait a day pretty much the whole year of 2014, and as I opened my book I thought, oh, that was 2013. And you can see very new to colored pencils. This was 2013 as well. That face just not too good. This one was one of those hairstyle magazines, and they fascinate me because her face was just white, you know, almost ghost-like, and they had bright red lipstick, purpley eyeshadow, and then her hair had every color of the rainbow, purples, pinks, yellows, blues, and she was striking because it was so different, and I wanted to try and sketch that. And then this was a magazine hairstyle that I've seen her around. I don't know if she's an actress or just a model, but she had the braided hair across her head and this fancy dancy little gown on, and I really enjoyed drawing that. So then it started 2014, and I was trying to change up what I was doing. So this is one of those ink pens. I had acrylic paints already down on my palette, and these are the really bright purples and pinks, and I just went to town and painted a whole bunch of pages in a bunch of these little journals so that when I set them on the coffee table I could pick one up, and if the paint was dry I could sketch. And this is pen and ink. Again, it kind of smears, but the outline was pen and ink, which means you can't erase, but I went back and colored it. So I tried to keep my lines fairly light. This is another one that I had the really bright colors on, and I just tried to do her in colored pencil. Not sure what the ad was, but it was an ad in some magazine selling something for women. This is one of the guys in the challenge, the 29 face challenge, that ended up being once a year challenge for me. This is one that I had started, and she just never seemed to be right, so I reworked it and kind of gave her she looks like somebody in a fairy tale. She has her blue hair, and she's a tough girl. These were done in Soul Food. We were to just find an image. I love these little dogs with their hats on, sitting in the snow. They crack me up, and I enjoyed looking at them. So we were just to get a pencil or a pen and sketch without, no erasing, no whatever. So this was my little version of that. And then this was just a black and white ad in a magazine, and they look like hippies to me, and I thought that was really they were selling clothing. It was a clothing magazine. And then this is another one of the guys, the 29 faces of the guys, and he's an actor. Again, I don't watch a lot of TV, and what I do watch is mindless reality stuff, which I'm not bragging, I'm just saying. So I don't know, there's a lot of series that people watch, and he's one of the guys on there. This one, I started out just as a sketch, and I didn't like it. I tried to add some watercolor and make it look loose and, as they say, painterly, which I don't even know what painterly means other than you use paint and you keep it loose. So that's kind of what I did on this one, just trying out something new. And then this one was colored pencil over that acrylic ink, and I used the citrus salt to blend it, which worked okay, but then I sprayed it. And when I sprayed it, it all bubbled up and the different colors came through, so I tried to rework it. And when you try and rework it, it will take a lot of the layers underneath, bring them up, blend, flake off. It turned into a real mess, so I tried to repair it the best I could, but I need to have more patience with letting things dry and not laying over too many different products. This one, excuse me, is just the white paper, acrylic, no acrylic, just graphite and then a little colored pencil. Another really fancy dancy hairstyle that I love to look through magazines and see the models with their stylish hairdo, and hers was rocking it. So it's one of the 3/4 profiles, which are difficult for me. This one, she was actually, it was a shot looking up at her face, which was tilted, so it made her eyes, it looks odd in the drawing because I didn't get the perspective right, but she had beautiful clothing and hair, and she was looking down at the camera with her big pouty lips, and I think it would look good if it was painted. Another really wild hairdo, I love that. It was curly on top with just all kinds of baubles and braids and fun stuff, and she had a beautiful face with the full lips and the beautiful eyes. This one is another one that I did of a friend who said, "Can you sketch me?" And I said, "I will try." And she seemed to be pleased with it, and I had a really good time. So that's, from somebody that I know. This one is just on the white paper, colored pencils, trying to keep it light. And I don't remember what happened, but I know something happened to her face. Something got spilt on it or something. And again, tried to make some repairs. This one was from like a flapper picture of the old style, big bows on the hair and the really short flapper hairstyle and the bangs, and she had a fur over her shoulder, and so that's her in colored pencils. This is another redhead. I love redheads. She was in a magazine. She was actually a young girl. She had her hair piled on top and her little blue-green eyes and the freckles, which I loved. And she had some scarf that was tied and twirled around her neck. This one was a challenge, I think, on Soul Food. We actually did a project where we formed a doll out of clay and painted it. And mine was to be an African lady with fancy, bright clothing. So I looked online to get images to look from, and I saw this lady with all these wrinkles and lines, but she had beautiful cheeks. She was beautiful. She had beautiful cheeks, wrinkles everywhere. She had pierced nose from the rings. She had all kinds of things dangling and hanging, and she had the rings around her neck. She had some kind of a straw hat or some type of a hat, and so I wanted to draw her. And as I did draw her, my husband just brought in this doll. This is what I ended up making for her. It's my first ever glue, not glue, but clay. She has she has a wire body, and then she's covered with tape and paper, and then eventually we put the clay over the top, and she has her little bun on the back, and she has earrings and jewels because she's a fancy dancy lady. Okay, back to the book. Whoop, and she just fell because one leg's a little shorter than the other. And this is another just black and white graphite picture. This one was another request by a dear friend, May Carlin. Her favorite guy in the world was, and probably still is James Nesbitt. I didn't know who he was, but she said, "Well, since you're doing guys this month, can you draw him for me?" And I said, "Again, I'll try." So I sketched him out and put little bit of colored pencil, and then I can tell that I went back with some kind of watercolor or something to try and blend it out a little bit. And this is another one of those sexy poses of some advertisement for women to buy something, and she had the long sharp nails and the makeup and the piles and piles of hair, and it's acrylic in the back with colored pencils over the top, and still not good with my blending yet. This is another one that is, I believe, just pencil over the acrylic. There's no blending materials, the Citrusol or anything on it, just colored pencil. Now this one was brightly colored in the background, and it was really rough texture. I didn't notice that until I started painting, but I like I said, I smear the paint on, and then I go back and I have a surface to work on. So she has a lot of texture in her face that's bumpy and lumpy and on her neck and so forth, but I just sketched over the top of it and then tried to fill it in with a little bit of color to pop her cheekbones and her eyes and to give her some color in her hair. Again, another one. This one, I started working on it, and then I see this big scar of paint down the lip area, all over the paper. It's rough. So these 2 pages may have been wet when I closed the book, and then when I opened it, I left marks on both. And this was just some picture that I saw where she had a big band in her hair and she had little dangly things, and I drew it in colored pencil, and then I did spray it afterwards, which may bring out the flaws even more than they would if you just left it. This one I think was, I'm sure I sketched it lightly, but then it was mostly done with my acrylic paints, which I love acrylic paints, but it's a lot more time consuming to get all your stuff out. And I have tons and tons of golden paints, and I have Liquitex paints. I have a lot of paints, but I'm always afraid to use them. And I know they're artist quality and they're better, but I started out with the cheap acrylic paints, and I love them so much because they're matte. You can paint over them. You don't have to blend your face tones. People ask me sometimes, how do you blend your face tones? Well, you can buy like 5 different flesh tones, and then you just add your pinks or your tans or your whites or whatever colors you want. So there's not as much blending. You can start out with a flesh tone and then build from there. So I really enjoyed this one. I tried to put a little texture around it, and yet keep it subtle. And then again, this was just acrylics, and it was just gray tones, black and white. It was after I had done a lesson in studying under the masters where we just did black and white. And this lady was in black and white, which made it easier, and it was really fun to do. Again, this one was in acrylics. She's kind of light in spots, but I think I've tried not to put in as much detail as far as making a complete jawline or making the dark circles, because I tend to do that. I'm more like a cartoonist or an illustrator, as they call it, where every line has an outline. And I know a lot of people don't like that. But I think next year I'm not going to really care what other people like. I'm just going to try and do what makes me happy, and even if it's repetitive, that's what I'm going to do. This one was a hair advertisement in a magazine. She was laying down on her stomach looking forward, so it kind of looks like she doesn't have a neck, but that was the pose, and I tried to capture that look. This is another, just a pretty face in a magazine. I started a little bit high, so she's got a lot of neck and not a lot of hair on top, but that's how she came out. This is another one, practicing with the hands, and this hand looks kind of like it's in proportion, those are really, really difficult. So I'm going to try and practice more of that.